Hi, my name is Attorney Broderick Brown of FightSlumlords.com, and today I'm going to be reacting to a video from the TV show Suits. I've never seen this show before. I've obviously heard of it, but generally speaking, I do not consume voyeur TV shows, and so I'm interested to see what this show is about. Let's get into it.
3 below, the heat went out and nearly froze to death. Then a gas leak in my stove. You could smell the damn thing, but he said it was fine. I called for a month, then I had to replace it myself.
Okay. Why didn't you just move?
That's often a common defense attorney question or argument, like that, if it was so bad, why didn't you move? But a lot of times it's the tenant's home, and particularly here in Oakland, Hayward, Richmond, Berkeley, San Francisco, where you have like a strict rent control. A lot of times moving may mean that you'll be required to pay significantly more per month in rent. And so most tenants don't want to move if they have a rent control building. They just want their landlord to make repairs.
You said you weren't sleeping. Are you stressed out or?
Bed bugs.
So one of the benefits is at least here in California, you can call your county vector control and they can come inspect for bed bugs. A common problem, particularly in large apartment complexes, because from what I see, a lot of times most landlords don't want to do the necessary repairs and remediation to the entire building. And the best way for them to remediate it is for them to put one of those tents over the building to fumigate it. And that usually will fix the problem. But what I see most often is that they'll try to fix the problem from apartment to apartment. And a lot of times the bed bugs will just simply move from one apartment to another, and it doesn't really get rid of the problem.
The guy from the housing department is going to be here in about 5 minutes.
How did you manage that?
They're actually pretty receptive when you explain the situation to them.
That's what you have to do, prevent the spread. I had to get rid of most of my things, clothes, record collection, books.
A lot of times, from my experience, clients will have to get rid of couches, beds, all of their clothes, their children's clothes, etc., in order for them to take the steps to try to eliminate the bed bug problem.
The bugs can live dormant for 18 months. You just have to throw everything out.
Frank,
Karinsky?
you're here.
Yes, I live here.
It's funny you should mention that because you haven't paid rent in 4 months, so I wasn't sure.
I haven't paid rent because
My
you haven't
client has
done...
withheld rent because the apartment is not habitable. New York Housing Code, Subchapter 2, Article 4, Section 27-20.
Hey, no rent, no apartment. That's my code. But if you want something legal, there's a court order.
So a lot of times, not a lot of times, sometimes I see landlords that'll wrongly make the argument that if you don't pay rent, they're not going to make any repairs. And the landlord's obligation to provide the tenants with a habitable house is not dependent on the tenants paying any rent. So the landlords have a duty to provide a habitable house regardless of if the tenant is paying. And in fact, a lot of times the tenants may not be paying and the landlord's essentially taking no action or try to evict them because they know ultimately they're liable to the tenant because the tenant's not getting what they paid for. Here in this case, like we see how his apartment is like everything is stored in containers. He's got plastic around his books. He's essentially not getting what he paid for. And so it makes no sense for him to continually pay the full amount of rent because the landlord's not making any repairs. And so at least here in California, if the landlord were to try to evict him, he would have defenses essentially to say that he didn't owe the full amount of rent and a jury would decide how much he did owe. That's a simplified version of it.
There's a court order. You got 3 days to get out, or the sheriff's department will empty the place for you.
In California, when you receive a 3-day notice, you have 3 days to pay or quit. You don't have to get out at the end of those 3 days. If you don't pay or quit at the end of those 3 days, then the landlord has the ability to file a lawsuit against you, which is commonly known as an unlawful detainer.
We're talking about $4,000 in withheld rent payments?
Yes, Your Honor, but we have receipts for repairs, lost clothing, as well as...
$4,000, yes, Your Honor. Just talking to me.
Why hasn't he paid, Counselor?
That one was for you.
Bed bugs, Your Honor. I have receipts that show my client's financial outlay to rectify the problem far exceeds the amount.
Housing Department certified the presence of bed bugs.
Yes, Your Honor.
Abatement.
Let's give you.
I'll do. Yep.
Your Honor, this is an eviction hearing. The pertinent question is not habitability, but whether or not rent has been paid.
Actually, city code states that rent may be.
She's right. In California, at least, there'd be two separate issues. You'd have the eviction proceeding, which is the unlawful detainer matter, and then you would have what I like to call an affirmative lawsuit. And so in this case, if he wanted to get reimbursed for the money he spent or get damages for his emotional distress, he would need to file a lawsuit against the landlord. It sounds like at this hearing, what the judge is supposed to be deciding is whether or not he's going to be evicted for failing to pay the rent.
Withheld if the warranty of habitability is breached.
In that case, we request to see the checks Mr. Ross's client has placed in escrow.
The
Checks in escrow, pending the outcome of a rent abatement hearing.
That's not in the code.
It is the accepted practice.
And therefore binding in this courtroom.
Your client did put money in escrow, I assume.
I didn't have any money left. I
Your
had to
Honor?
pay for everything.
Eviction upheld.
But Your Honor, he.
Did you see me bang the gavel? That means step aside. Next case.
You never forget your first.
Yeah, that was cold. That's not how it happens in real life, but it doesn't go that fast. In California, it takes a long time and you have a right to a jury. So a lot of times tenants will request a jury. And so you won't have a judge decide your unlawful detainer matter if you request a jury trial.
He owns 5 buildings, and they all used to be rent controlled, but now they go for $1.5 million a unit.
Nice profit margin.
I went to look for housing department complaints in the year prior to his remodel, and each one of them, tenants who couldn't buy into the conversion ended up.
Isn't that the princess? Yeah, look at Meghan Markle. Wow. I'd never heard of her before she started dating Prince or whatever. And I for sure hadn't seen her on any shows. I didn't know she was on Suits. It's funny watching this because now a lot of law firms work remotely. And yeah, you don't really do anything in person. Even if they do have a big office, it's like, damn it. Like usually when I go to a defense firm, half the office is like empty because no one works there on a day-to-day basis. But this is interesting.
What's in the bag?
Hey, what are you doing?
Oh, do you recognize this carpet?
Make him get that out of here.
This is your own carpet, Mr. Karinsky. It's from Frank Carvello's apartment. Come on. You feel the fibers, the texture. It's almost alive.
You brought bed bugs in here.
Whoa. That's vandalism, assault.
You know, I'm happy that you put it that way because that's exactly what we're going to be charging your client with.
What are you talking about?
He didn't just fail to eradicate a bedbug infestation, he actually created one. Yeah, he pulled the carpet from one of his old buildings, carpet that was already infested, and then he reinstalled it in my client's apartment to drive him out.
That's crazy.
You might want to warn your client about perjury. We've got sworn testimony from the installer.
And a picture of the same carpet from one of his old buildings before it was renovated. By the way, my wife and I really love what you've done with the place. So it looks like we're talking about what? Assault, violations of rental codes, health codes, and just basic codes of human decency.
And if a jury in New York heard all that,
Two things. The basic codes of human decency is why a lot of jurors award, quite frankly, a lot of money on these habitability lawsuits and why insurance companies settle these cases for a lot of money. The laws are one thing, but like we're not dealing with units or doors. We're dealing with human beings who have endured real loss, real inconvenience, real stress, and real anxiety. And so a lot of times the defense attorneys and the insurance adjusters and quite frankly, the landlords forget about that. This is just not simply an apartment listed in your Excel sheet. This is a human being who experienced a ton in this case. Bed bugs, he had to get rid of all of his stuff. And so sometimes the defense bar just forgets about that. And it's my job as a tenant's rights attorney to remind them about that. And I always do my best. The second part, what's interesting here, and which is highly unrealistic, is that the lawyer for the tenant, the lawyer for the landlord, and the landlord are all meeting informally before a lawsuit's filed. That's like, I've never experienced that. And so usually sometimes I'll meet the landlord and the landlord's attorney at like a site inspection after we filed a lawsuit in person. But most of our mediations are over Zoom now. So even where we're handling a mediation or even a mandatory settlement conference, we're going to be in our respective offices or homes while we conduct the Zoom. So seeing this lets me know that this happened, before the pandemic, whatever.
Wow, imagine the damages.
Harvey, spectate, please.
Just get that carpet out of here.
So, Vivian, how am I doing for my first time? This still counts as my first time, doesn't it? Now, let's talk about how much this is going to cost you.
Yeah, so that was a good episode. The acting was kind of so-so, and some parts were unrealistic. It was a good show. It was interesting. That was a good find.
Thanks for watching. For more tenant rights information, visit us at fightslumlords.com.